Just a little quick background. Myself, I'm Randy Chambliss, born and raised in the New Orleans area. I'm known as the private money lender expert. Been in the industry of mortgages for 18 years, 19 years into real estate investing myself. From that time to this time, I probably purchased, rehab, and sold about 20 different properties. Built about 3 or 4 new constructions and sold them, and also had been involved in multiple renovations, from low minimum renovation to extremely large renovations, and just managing projects altogether. That being said, the purpose of this mastermind group, we call it REIM, right? Real Estate Investment Mastermind. This is an online community. Oftentimes we able to go out into the REIA clubs, right? The Real Estate Investment Associations. We meet there in person, we shake hands, give out business cards, et cetera, hoping to network. But what we found, over the last couple of years is that not too often people can really get there physically. So we wanted to do something different, bring a platform that's virtual, bring a platform that's online, that still be able to accomplish the same goal, right? So I'm the CEO and founder of Chambliss Mortgage Capital, and the whole purpose of that is to be able to provide the correct education, the expert guidance, and then also the fair access to capital investors and developers need to be able to get those projects done, right? And so with that being said, today we're really going to be talking about a topic that's really dear to my heart, really dear to Ms. Patricia heart, and then many of you on the call, just hearing your background, I'm sure you're going to appreciate that as well. And that is, the topic is investing in affordable and workforce housing, right? And why that matters. Investing in affordable and workforce housing, and why does that matter? Well, at the end of the day, we all know what affordable housing is, but sometimes we tend to not really grasp what workforce housing is and the issues and challenges that we're having right there. So very simple, workforce housing, in my personal humble opinion, is individuals that we know in our family, including ourselves, from firefighters, police officers, school teachers, that accountant, et cetera, right? Those professionals that's working every day, went to college, didn't went to college, but the increase of mortgage rates, the increase of insurances, increase of food costs, et cetera, all contribute to a high standard of living. And now we're starting to see foreclosures that's happening. We're starting to see individuals that can't pay for their rent rates, right? And so the only way to be able to slow down and reduce and prevent homelessness in our community, right, is going to be the private sector. Individuals like you and I. You all are the ones that's literally going to help to be able to reduce and prevent homelessness in our community. Because that young lady who just got divorced from her husband, single mother, 2, 3 children, it's tough for her to be able to have a sustainable place to live without struggling, right? And so oftentimes we go to the city councilmen, city council women, we go to the city government, local, state, federal, nonprofits, and hoping and beating the door down for funding, beating the door down for resources, beating the door down saying, listen, we have to do something with homelessness. And those are all things we need to continue to pursue, absolutely. But at the same time, I believe it's the private sector because that's going to drive this forward, just because Chase Bank, they don't want to be a landlord, right? The local and regional banks, they don't want to be a landlord, right? If they did, they wouldn't be selling REO properties, right? Everybody know what REO is, right? They wouldn't be selling. They'll keep it, renovate it, and rent it out themselves. So they don't want that. Most of our city council women, city council men, they're not in the business of real estate investing. Very few are, but the majority are not. City, state, federal government, most of your nonprofit organizations, they're not in the business of developing and holding properties. So with all that being said, who is going to make that happen? And that is going to be people like yourself, entrepreneurs just like yourself. But only for you to be successful, you need a few things. Number one, you need the belief that you can do it. And we are very big on personal development. Number two, you actually need to find a good deal, right? A profitable deal. Number three, you have to have the skills, the training to be able to put those resources together. And then lastly, you'll need access to capital, right? Fair, equitable access to capital. Well, what I mean by that? Well, think about this for a moment. Imagine that you are invited to a Indy 500 race, right? You have the same vehicle as your counterpart. Beautiful 2025 Lamborghini. Both of you all are skilled, trained, and developed. Both of you all are passionate, committed to actually being successful. But one of you all start at lap 400, right? And you start at lap 0. Is that fair? Of course not, it's not fair. So here's some stats and statistics that I want to share with you real quick. Did you know that between capital venture and private equity firms, they hold about $87 trillion combined between venture capitalists and private equity firms, $87 trillion that they have in a possession. And out of that 87 trillion with a T dollars that they have, about 1.33% of that is reinvested into businesses that started and owned by people of color and women combined. And as we know, women make up the majority of America, and people of color make up at least 13% plus of America. But yet and still, only 1.33% is actually invested into those businesses. So it's not fair, it's not equitable. Now, to add on to that, the biggest donor to the venture capital, private equity firms, is public employee pension systems. Public employee pension system, right? They're the #1 donor. And many of you all know somebody in the family goes back to those professions I talked about, who's a teacher, right? Who's an accountant, who's a engineer, somebody that works in the city and state government. And every time they get a paycheck, a portion of a retirement plan, that pension plan goes up into an account. And aggregated, that gets tossed out into these venture capital and private equity firms. Now, the purpose of the private equity firm is to invest in real estate businesses like yourself, right? But they like to take ownership, a percentage of the business. The purpose of venture capitalist company, they like to invest in startups like tech companies, right? But if the women are not getting fair access to this capital, if the majority people of color not getting access to the capital, then only leave one race and one gender that's getting access to all this capital. So that's what I mean by having fair, equitable access to capital. And that's why we do what we do here, because we want to provide the education, the expert guidance, and fair access to private capital to be able to fund those deals. Now, that private capital I'm referring to is actually money that's non-bank money, right? It's not coming from the institutions, not coming from the bank. They don't have all the regulations, don't have all the guidelines. It's literally a commercial loan. In particular, a business loan, a business-to-business loan, right? So with that being said, those are the things that I want you guys to be thinking about, right? I want you to be thinking about what we just discussed, because passion and purpose is everything, right? Passion and purpose is everything. And so when you are getting beat up sometimes, right, you got hit on the blind side because of an investment deal might have went wrong. Then, and to encourage you to keep going, you have to divert back to your passion and your purpose. And so what we're doing collectively, right, it takes a village, right? We help in the village. It takes a village to go out and be able to help each other to build a legacy for not only our personal family, but our community that we are involved. And so I want you to be thinking about that. #1, you're going to be helping to be able to prevent and reduce homelessness in our community, because you and you only is the one that's going to develop these properties. You're going to redevelop these properties. You're willing to take that risk. You're willing to take time away from your family. You're willing to have that leap of faith. And it takes strong faith sometimes, right, to be able to do the things that you have to do. But yet, even though you're that savior, you're that investor, you're taking that risk, you got skill, training, develop. You're taking time out your business schedule from your family to come on education platforms like this to better network and grow your business, while other people are not doing that. So you deserve to win. You deserve to earn the income you prefer. You deserve to be able to live the lifestyle you really want. But at the same time, when you better develop these affordable housing units and be able to develop these workforce housing units, then you're actually doing a great deed for the community. So that should make you smile, should make you excited. So with that being said, I want to just ask Ms. Patricia to come on in and just share some wisdom around the real estate market right now, what she sees that's going on right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Randy, for having me on, and also for our collaborations. I want to thank everyone that's on that I invited. I know some of you got the link at the last minute. Some of us, we were in conversation since 7 this morning, and I see you here. So that tells me that our purpose is already being established. So I want to thank you for that. Well, my name is Patricia Gail, and I am a real estate everything. Broker.
That part, right?
Investor, money matchmaker, instructor, just a repertoire in the industry of real estate. It's my passion.
Well, awesome. Well, welcome, man.
I want to talk about the real estate market, but I don't want to talk about the problem in the real estate market because everybody knows the problem. They know the problems, so we don't have to talk about that. What Mr. Randy just alluded to is we are one of the main vehicles for solving the problem, for the solution. Education, guidance, and access to capital. If you don't remember anything else after this forum tonight, remember that we have access to private investor dollars, capitals. So I want to talk about supply and demand. I have a master's in business management, but a minor in economics. Always like economics and studying the market for some years, some time now in more in depth than others. I worked in New York 7 months prior to COVID and with real estate, and that's a whole different animal. But what it did was it helped me to develop what I have now for you. And that's a different perspective. What is the problem if I was to sum it up, supply and demand, period? All the rest of that can be summed up into that, supply and demand. There is more demand than there is supply. And that's why you're important, because we need to drive that number down of there not being enough housing units. The statistics of all the real estate trade organizations, all the reports talks about the percentages of homelessness, the percentages of affordable housing. You hear people say, well, such and such entity has $71 billion for down payment assistance. Well, what you going to assist if you don't have no house? Think about it. Oh, well, they're going to give you $30,000 in down payment assistance. I don't need it. I don't have a house. And so that's why it's so important and pertinent that we realize our role is to cut that giant down, is to provide housing stock, new construction, investment property. We have products for ground up new construction, for rehab, for acquisition, for flip. I heard somebody say flip and sell and flip, rehab and flip. Look, individuals, let me say something to you. People that have a confused mind gonna say no. People that don't understand gonna say no because of fear. But we're here to let you know and get an understanding how simple it is to get into the industry of bringing that statistics of lack of supply down. You heard about the short-term strike and all of this, and you're going to have supply chain problems. Okay, that's all fine. But people going to have somewhere to stay. God not make no more land. You can take your whole community. You can take, I know an entity said, what are we going to do with Big Mama's house? What are you going to do with Big Mama's house? Well, we got the funds to help you rehab Big Mama's house. Sell it, flip it, rent it, whatever. Now, the key to what we're doing is for non-owner occupied properties. It's not for you yourself. So you don't start off thinking about, oh, when I'm going to get my house. No. You get your house off your profit that you're going to make. But this is to help other people. And that's why I'm passionate about it, because I can help others to get in the as they say, skin in the game. Get on the monopoly board for purchasing real estate. The housing market today. Okay, they say the interest rates. I bought my house when it was 3%. Well, that's good. That's good you bought your house at 3. But the interest rates now high, they 7%, but you're not in the game. You're looking at the interest rates. You're looking at one component of a note. There are 5 components minimum of an equation of putting a transaction together. So the interest rate, well, my note is $600. If I buy again, my interest rate, my note would be $800. Okay, fine. All right, let's say you bought the house and it's $200,000. Let's say you held it and you rehabbed it and you sold it. Now it's worth $345,000. Do the math, please. 200 from 345,000, $145,000. Do you think I'm worried about an interest rate? No, I am not. Because I'm going to only pay interest only for a couple months till it sells. Why do I know it's going to sell? Again, go back to supply and demand. There's not enough supply. Everything you touch will sell if you price it right. We can't be greedy if you repair it right, if we're not slumlords. So we're here to give you 100%, correct me, Mr. Randy, 100% for the rehab costs and a certain percentage of the acquisition costs. And depending on if you have land, there's just a lot of parameters. You go to our website, it has all the parameters. I'm not here to talk about that tonight. But what I would like for you to understand that you are a key person in the role of us driving down this problem of a shortage in housing. Multifamily units. When I was in New Orleans before Katrina ran me out, New Orleans culture is you got 2, 3 people gonna live in a house as a whole. And I would sell doubles where the senior citizen who's on a fixed income would get in the house, live in one side, and the rent on the other side pay the whole note. Come on with me, somebody. So we have to have a paradigm shift. We have to look at the trajectory of this market. And don't listen to everything the media say, please. If you out there with boots on the ground, you'll know the difference. That's why I can talk with confidence, because I've been to the National Association meeting. I've been to, last week we had the Tennessee State, and I think one of the brokers on here, Tennessee State conference here. Before that, we had the National Mortgage Brokers Conference. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to these people, everybody saying the same thing, the same problem, the same problem. What is the solution? The solution is we need housing. The solution is you as an individual have to have a heart and a passion to say, I could do this. And we're here to guide you through the process. If you think about it, look around wherever you live, whatever part of the country you're in. We're in 40 states. Look at the map. You can see which ones we're not in. But you still can purchase in other states. You purchase a property. I have a passion, and maybe I shouldn't get into that, but I do have a passion. There's people that are facing foreclosure. Mr. Randy talked about REOs. That stands for real estate owned. Banks. These lenders holding these houses, y'all, they don't want them. They're priced below market. They just want their mortgage paid off. So if you as an investor go in and acquire one of those properties, in most cases, not all, let me give a disclaimer. In most cases, you're going to have equity in that property. You're going to have a little bit of work to do on it because the bank's not going to hold no trash. You got Fannie Mae, you got HUD, you have all these properties out here that are not put into operation because individuals like you don't know that they can. So I'm going to pause right now. I don't want to go across my timeline. You might not have me back, but I am passionate about supply and demand. The problem is not the interest rate. The problem is not the credit. The problem is not I don't have enough money, because we deal with business entities, LLC, corporation. If one person got the credit and another got the money, come on, get together. Let's do a deal.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. And you're going to come back in, Ms. Patricia. I just want to kind of piggyback on what you just said in regards to interest rates. So the biggest thing that I always teach my team and my students, the fact that you have to know what's driving the interest rates, right? Just because the news media is sharing propaganda doesn't mean that's the truth, right? And so think about this for a moment. What happened during COVID? Like, did the interest rate go up or did the interest rate go down? We all know it went down, extremely low. But the question is why? And the reason is because whenever there's a crisis, whenever there's a war or rumors of wars or something like a pandemic like we had for the first time in our lifetime, panic start to happen. People will say, whoa, hold on. I need to go to the grocery store and go buy some water and cases of water. I need to go get the toilet tissue and buy cases of toilet tissue. And they tend to panic. And then the cash money they have, they put it underneath the sock, in the sock, and put it underneath the mattress back like in Good Times. Remember James on Good Times, right? R.I.P. James on Good Times. That money's underneath the mattress, so they hold on to the funds. Well, as everybody starts to hold on to their funds and get a little worried and scared, what happens is that money stops flowing. We have to realize this is a capitalistic society, right? And that's part of financial literacy, right? So I encourage you as professionals, real estate investors, developers, real estate agents and brokers, always be educating your clients on why the market is doing what it's doing. That's going to stand you out from everybody in the marketplace. A lot of real estate professionals literally quit the business. They've been out of the business last 2.5 years because they could not sustain. And I understand it. I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But some didn't quit the business. Some may have became a little slow, but they still in the business today because they was able to have a track record of educating their clients about what happened with the rates. So going back to the story. So when COVID hit, interest rates dropped because the Federal Reserve Bank, which is no more federal than Federal Express, right, is not a government entity, it's a private corporation, right? And so the Fed chairman came out and said, listen, we're going to lower rates. Why? Because that made consumers spend their money and not hoard it and hold on to it, because money has to be flowing, right? And so now all of a sudden you have a 3% interest rate on the mortgage. What do you think people is going to be doing when they constantly hearing from the news media, go buy a house, this is a perfect time, this is awesome, interest rates is low, oh, this is amazing. They're going to go out and what? Buy. You have automobile loans, 1%, 2%, 0% financing. So automobiles are being sold, right? And everything you can imagine was on sale because of the low interest rate, meaning that the basis point that the Fed gave the local banks, regional banks, and your national bank was able to go and grab some cash at a very low percentage and lend that out to the world, per se. Well, what happens when things start to shift? What happens when fear goes away? Notice the interest rate did not start to rise until the COVID-19 shot was introduced, the vaccine. When that vaccine was introduced into the market, then you go do your research, right? That's when you start to see the chairman from the Fed say, listen, we're going to start raising the rates because the fear of COVID was going away. People started getting the vaccine. People started boasting up their faith. They started believing the vaccine was going to work. And so now it was no need to keep interest rates low because people was willfully spending because they felt better, right? They felt confident that everything is going to be okay. But at the same time, what was happening as the rates were so low, just like Miss Patricia eloquently said, supply and demand. There's a huge demand on houses now, like it was a huge demand in houses in 2020 and 21 and 2022. Huge demand. And so now all of a sudden you have one home come on the market to be sold from that investor that bought it, rehab it, and sold it, or just a seller that's selling the house. The house go on the market. Then you have 10, 15, 20 buyers, right, making an offer. Like I literally seen this, right? We've seen people literally overpriced homes. So they asking $325,000 for the home, and they making offers for $350,000 for the home. So they're overpaying for the home, but they got a low interest rate. Well, now what happened is the economy was so hot, the job market was so hot, right? The unemployment rate was so low, then you had people spending, then inflation started to rise rapidly. Went from 4%, the normal annually, to 6%, 7%, 9%, and we almost hit double digits with inflation. And as we was getting ready to hit that high 9%, that double digit, that's when the Fed chairman said, wait a minute, hold on, the economy is too hot. Things are going too smooth. Things are going too great. So we have to do something about this because inflation is going to keep rising to 12, 13, 14, 20%, et cetera. And it's going to be bananas, right? And so what they did, they made the decision, hey, let's start cutting basis points, start raising basis points, excuse me. And there was raising those basis 25, 50, 75, et cetera. And they constantly did that every single month. What happens? Now people start to slow down their spending because housing mortgage rates is higher. Automobile rates are higher, consumer goods are higher. So they started to raise the rates and it slowed the market down. So as long as, think about this, I know it's weird, it makes no sense, but it's accurate data from historic data. If the market is doing phenomenal great, interest rates is going to be risen. It's going to be raised. If there's a panic in the market, stuff is going haywire, then interest rates are going to come down. So you have to know that there's a real estate cycle that happens. And typically it's like every 10, 12 years, it's going to happen. But you have to predict when it's going to happen, be right at the edge, just like we know, like anything, you invest low and you sell high. But you have to know the swing and reason why interest rates is doing what they're doing. So currently today, right, interest rates have come down some, but here's some key triggers, right? I wrote this letter a couple of days in October the 4th. I'm just going to share a quick brief with you so you can get a better understanding, right? So U.S. job creation beats all estimates, right? Unemployment fell. Higher hourly earning rose, right? So people that earn hourly, right? Their income rose, right? Unemployment numbers fell. For all the conspiracy theories ready to talk in circles once again, I'm sure most will throw these numbers out as being manipulative by the administration. Okay, let's just say that that is true. At the same time, those same conspiracy theories believe the administration is also manipulating interest rate for pre-election. Please explain this rationale. Higher employment numbers make the economy look strong. A strong economy will force interest rates up. Once again, you want it both ways, but that is what makes you look mad and irrational. We have to know that of a very good economy that's popping, then the rate's going to come is going to come down. If the economy is real bad, it's going to be the opposite, right? So think about this. You could do your own research. The 10-year T-bill pushing up against 4%. That was about 3 days ago, right? Right at 4%, the T-bill, right? Something different that's happening. With many economists, many predicting a 10-year north of 4.2%, right? That will lead you to believe that long-term mortgage rates are on their way up. They may climb sustainably unless the economy falls off a cliff. And regardless of the election that's going to happen next month, there are a few signs that this will happen in the near future. So I want you guys to really get prepared because the fourth quarter that we're currently in is going to be one of the best quarters you had in the last couple of years. So I encourage you all. I'm super excited that you're on the call because we want to inspire you, motivate you, but just give you facts, right? We're not here to pull your leg and do those type of loops and tricks. We just want to give you pure, accurate information that you can utilize so you can get prepared. So if you start right now marketing, you start right now educating, you start right now reaching out to those who may be facing foreclosure, and you can be able to help them out, right? Because the idea is you're able to help them keep the home. That's a good thing. But some people is going to have to sell. That's going to be the only option. And if you're that go-to person, that subject matter expert that actually care, right, that gave them some solution, but the solution is not going to benefit them at the moment, who you think they're going to rather sell their house to? Somebody that they haven't learned before, somebody that's being manipulative, or somebody like yourself who has been educated and they look at you as a subject matter expert. They're going to be coming to you first, right? And so you want to be prepared. You want to have the education. You want to have the network behind you. You want to have the expert guidance. And like we all know, one of my favorite books talk about you reap what you sow. So you put out good stuff, you would get some stuff back. So I just want to throw that in there, Ms. Patricia.
Yes, sir. Well, on the note of what you're saying, with the media saying the economy is going to do this, that, and the other, some people need more income because of inflation, things going up, whether it's food, gas, tuition, etc. But an option to get an additional job, a third job or fourth job, is to get an income property. An income property, 2 units, 4 units, that's paying rental prices are up. Then that's the additional income that an individual can get and still have quality time with their family, still have quality time for themselves. The other thing that I like to talk about just briefly, debt to income ratio. What does that mean? A lot of people couldn't get funding or can't get funding because
Patricia, you
their
can hear me?
income.
Wait, I lost your audio for a second. You're back.
Okay. Where should I start? Debt to income ratio?
I would go back maybe 30 seconds or so.
Okay. Well, I was saying instead of getting an additional job, get a rental property that bring in additional income. And you say, well, I don't want to manage it. There are several management companies for that. The other thing is debt to income ratio. Some people can't move forward on traditional banking because they don't make enough money. Well, with the funding that we're providing, the debt to income ratio is not one of the main qualifications. The main qualification is that the property makes sense. We're looking more at the property that generates a positive cash flow as opposed to the individual, because we know the individual trying to get out of debt. Maybe be trying to pay off some student loans or some credit cards or whatever. It's unfortunately the generation, what you call it, the Gen Zs bought more homes than the millennials in the last 2 years. Millennials, 35, 40 years old, staying in the house with their parents. Why? Because they don't know that they have an opportunity to buy. So these are some of the things that I believe that we could make a difference with, have some positive cash flow, not allow the media to use interest rates to paralyze you with fear from moving forward. And that's all I
Yeah,
have to say right
yeah,
now.
absolutely. And just to piggyback on the early conversation we're dealing with the interest rate. Well, you heard me tell that story of when the interest rates was low and you have 20 people making an offer on a house. Well, at that point, the seller have no reason to provide any seller concession. The seller have no reason to be motivated to sell at all because they know the property going to sell over price. So you either want a lower interest rate and overpay for the property. And like currently right now, those people who overpaid for those properties in 2020, 21, and 22, guess what? They're upside down on a mortgage right now. They'll owe more on a mortgage than the property's actually worth. However, to combat the fear and the propaganda that the news media try to push on individuals is that the rates are higher, yes. So you have properties that will come on the market and it might sit 6 months before somebody even attempt to even go and visit the house. Well, that makes the seller really motivated, right? So as investors, that's all we're looking for is motivated sellers. Like if you're not motivated to sell, there's no reason for me to even approach it because I can't get the property at a discount. Like we're not in the business of just buying directly from Walmart. No, we're in the business of going directly to the wholesaler, right? We want to get the price at a deep discount. And the only way that can happen is that the seller has to be motivated, whether they're foreclosure, they have to sell quickly before they ruin their credit for 10 years. It could be they're getting a divorce. Unfortunately, they have to sell a house. Or it might be a good thing. They have got a job opportunity or received a job opportunity in a different state, in a different market. They can't afford to pay 2 mortgages, right? So they're looking to sell quickly. Or it could be a property that was inherited to a family member. They just don't want to deal with the headaches. Whatever the motivation is, that's the key. And so now all of a sudden the interest rates are a little higher. The seller is motivated to sell because they can't sell their property. Now they're willing to give you a second back mortgage, right? They're willing to give you assistance on a cash to close and prepays, right? They're willing to give you a discount on that property. They was asking 235, but now you didn't got that bad boy for 265, right? So it's just the opposite because like we know you can always refinance in the future. And so just to kind of give you a little box to think about, right? In the private money world, it's business to business lending. The application is literally in your business name. The title is in your business name. The debt will never show up on your personal credit report because it's in your business name. And unlike conventional loans, once you hit 10 properties with a conventional loan, you can't get no more loans from a conventional lender. That's it. Unless you sell one of the properties and or pay it off to open up that one slot again, since you have 9, but after 10, that's it. But with private money lending, you can have 20 properties, 30 properties. Who cares? As long as you have found a good deal, your credit score is decent, and you have enough cash for the down payment to put a little skin in the game, then you can continue to build that portfolio out. Like Ms. Patricia mentioned, there's no personal income verification, there's no tax returns, there's no W-9s, right, pay stubs. You don't have to worry about none of those headaches. But we're all looking at the property. What's the property potential cash flow, right? Do you have enough income coming into that property to pay for the principal, interest, tax, and insurance? That just makes sense, right? It just makes sense. If you're not going to cash flow out the property, then you shouldn't be buying a property in the beginning with. This is not, you're not doing this for charity. You're here to make some money, right, along the way. We're going to do good, but we're also going to do well for our families at the same time. So as long as you can find a good deal, we're willing to help. So we're talking about private money in long-term, 30-year fixed rate mortgages. We're talking about short-term bridge loan, 12 months, 18 months, right? Whatever that person needs are, we try to be able to help with that. Now, with that being said, I am going to, at this time, I want to open up the call. Those of you who have some, we call this section wants and needs, right? What do you want? What do you need, right? Could be a connection with insurance, a connection with a realtor. It could be an opportunity that you're looking to buy, a single family or duplex. Or you may have a duplex you're trying to sell. You're trying to wholesale this thing. So what are your wants and what are your needs? So I'm going to open up the call. Feel free just to chime in, jump in, tell us what your wants and needs, and at bare minimum, just give us some feedback on this mastermind that we're doing. What can we change? What can we do differently? How can we make it better? We try to keep it at 1 hour max because we're all busy. So give me some feedback, and it is open. With that being said, I'm going to share this quick story with you, right? And I want you to think about this as we close. I'm going to give you 2. So that was a young lady that owned a nursery on a major street in the New Orleans area for 20 plus years, right? Way before Hurricane Katrina. Her clients, children that she watches and take care of and educate is all from the local community. The nurses that's working in the area, in the local hospitals, et cetera. So they have a contract with a lot of the hospitals. And so she's been renting the 2 duplexes. She changed 2 duplexes into the workspace for the children, right? So 20 some plus years she's been renting. Finally, the landlord said, I'm going to sell the property. We're going to give you access to buy it first. Well, she went to the traditional banks. She tried to get funding. Her credit score was stellar, right? She had a good track record of paying rent. But by the issue of making the transition from duplexes to sort of kind of like mixed use, the traditional banks didn't want to finance it, right? And she had really good money that put down, right? Banks would not do it. So we stumbled across the opportunity. She came to us. We evaluated the deal. The deal made sense. She had proven that she had good cash flow coming in every month. And she wasn't an investor. She was just an entrepreneur, right? And by her being a Black entrepreneur, a woman-owned business, we was able to help her to acquire the property. We was able to negotiate with the seller on her behalf to do a second mortgage on the property. And all she put literally down was on a purchase of those 2 duplexes. The total purchase price was like $865,000. So imagine if she had to put down 20%. Imagine what that number would look like if she had to put 25 or 30%. But we did allow the seller to do a mortgage, but she was required to put at least 10% in the game. So long story short, she was able to close the property. She now owns it, and she's able to continue her business and cash flow because the new landlord that was a possibility that could have happened, could have came in and told her, hey, we're not going to renew your lease. And all of her cash flow that she worked for 20 plus years would have been gone. So I want you guys to be thinking about that young lady as you leave off the call and as you start to go into your daily business, that this is not just about real estate investors. This is about community building, giving fair access to capital for our entrepreneurs to be able to not just survive, but thrive, right? And so I'll leave off with this story. It's a story I want you to remember. So there was two young men, and they was out on a lake. It was cold. It was a winter month up in the Carolinas. These young men was like 12, 13, 14 years old. And they were playing on the water. The water was actually ice. So they were just slipping and sliding on the ice, just enjoying themselves like young men does, right? And all of a sudden the ice cracked and broke. And one of the young men literally fell in the ice, fell in the water, boom. Then a other friend looked and saw his friend under the ice and was floating away from the hole. So he quickly ran, he got to the ice, he tried to reach in and pull him, but the water was so cold, it was freezing his hand, he couldn't actually grab a piece of his clothing, pull him up. And so he started to panic, like many of us would. He started to panic, his heart started beating. You probably could hear his heartbeat right now as you listen to my voice. And as he started to look around, he started to beat on the ice and started to beat on the ice and started to beat and beat on the ice, hoping to be able to crack it. But nothing happened. And as he looked around, he seen a little tree branch. So he hurried up quickly, ran over there, grabbed the tree branch, ripped the tree branch off the tree, and started carving into the ice, carving into it and beating and beating and carving and beating. And finally, the ice broke. And when the ice broke, he was able to grab his friend, pull his friend out to safety. And then when the paramedics got there, the firefighters got there, and one of the paramedics said, man, like how in the world did this scrawny kid of his age and his size was able to break that ice and save his friend like that? So that was an older gentleman. He was a wise gentleman. He had a lot of wisdom. He said, I can tell you how he did it. And he said, well, go ahead, tell us. He said, because there was no one there to tell him he could not do it. So I want to encourage you all to have that belief that the world is full of wonders that people say it couldn't be done. I want you to write that down and think about that. The world is full of wonders that people say that couldn't be done. So I want to encourage you that whatever your goals are, whatever your dreams are, whatever that burning desire is, whether it's to be financially free, whether that's to take care of your parents in their older age, whether that's to leave a generational wealth to your children's children like we commanded to do, whether it's that taking those dream, fun, memorable vacations on exotic islands with the beautiful aqua blue water, right? Whatever success or that dream look like for you, I want you to know that you can attain it. You can attain it. But the only way you can attain those things, you have to have a vehicle to get there. And most of everybody on this call made a decision already that real estate investing is going to be that vehicle. But the capital, fair access to capital, is the fuel for that business. That's the fuel. So write this down, and we're going to close. We're at 7:58.
Randy, we got some comments in the chat.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
When you finish with your writing down.
Thank you.
Some questions.
So, BEAR, B-E-A-R. Always remember that. I'm briefly going to tell you, we'll break it down in another video, another training. B stands for belief. The E stands for emotions. The A stands for action. And the R stands for results. The B is belief. Whatever you believe, that's going to determine your emotional state, whether you feel good or you feel sad. If you feel good, you feel excited, you knew you can win, then you're going to take massive action because of your feeling. So that A is the action, you're going to take massive action consistently. And then that massive action you taking consistently will turn into the results you prefer. So remember that, Bear. So yes, ma'am. What questions or comments we have in the chat?
one is from the question, let me go back to it. It says they need working capital to build affordable houses that they design. They're already on the land. And I know there are several entities on here that have land and are in construction and want to build, and they want to know how to get the working capital. Another question is similar, will we finance our residential properties, commercial properties? And the other one, and I know we can answer them all at one time, is what's the next step? So I'll let you take the first one about the working capital, and I'll do the rest so we can wrap up in a minute.
Sure. Yeah, so working capital, we absolutely, if you own the land already, we can help you with the capital to build the land, right? So the after repair value is going to be critical. That just tells us this is a profitable deal. But yeah, just reach out to Ms. Patricia and myself. If Ms. Patricia invited you to call, reach out to Ms. Patricia. She can give you the detail.
Okay. The other person wants to know, what's the next step? And you can, if I don't, or he doesn't have your email address, we can forward you an application so that you can put the information on and we can answer you intelligently. And by doing the application, there are only three items that we need for pre-approval. Your corporate entity, last 2 months bank statements, and the application. We don't need your tax returns. We don't need your paycheck stub. We don't need to know what kind of dog you have. All we need to know is
or your DNA sample.
your DNA sample, application, whether you're LLC or corporate entity. And I heard someone earlier that introduced themselves. They said they just put the LLC together, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be seasoned. And your last 2 month bank statements. From there, within a 72-hour turnaround time, 5 days at the most, providing there's no power shortages and storms, we can give you a letter letting you know how much you approve for. That way you can go and do what you need to do. And this letter is not just a bogus letter saying anything. We've looked at what we need to look at. You put the transaction on paper. We look at the numbers, and our goal is to close each transaction within 21 days. Within 21 days, you can fund. Within 21 days, you can get cash. Within 21 days, you can get paid. Now, when we do the due diligence, after you turn in those 3 documents, we may ask you for something else, so don't get frustrated. But initially, that's your next step. So is there further training? We talked about doing this next Tuesday. If y'all going to come on next Tuesday, we said the next three Tuesdays in October, right, Mr. Randy? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
3 more Tuesdays, same time, same Zoom. We come on, and if you have other questions in between there, we would love for you to come on, because this is, as he said, is for us to educate and guidance. And the beautiful part is to have capital to guide you which way to go. How do you walk people through who are not realtors through the process? Just as I said, find out what your transaction is, listen to your goals, your visions, your ideas. What do you want to do? Then we share the wisdom from that. And guess what? We don't charge. How about that? You got the big old session going on, charging $15,000 to tell you what you can read. But anyway, let me shut up.
No, you're okay. I just wanted to jump in also too. If you have not joined the community, the online community, just simply go to ChamblissMortgageCapital.com, and right at the first tab, it's going to say join community. It's free. You click on there, put in your name, email address, and then you get access to a community, kind of like a Facebook group. But we didn't want to be on Facebook because Facebook have these certain guidelines, and we just think, hey, we need to be independent. So we brought it off of Facebook into a group. But you'll see the same type feed. That's going to be a place that you can ask questions, you can network, and then we also have some lives we'll be going in as well. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. I'm honored. I'm humbled. Thank you, Ms. Patricia, for your wisdom, and you all enjoy the rest of your night on purpose. Take care.